Hi friends, today we are going to discuss about XML schema. In the last lecture we studied about XML DTD, document type definition. So as I told you already that document type definition is the document which contains all the rules and regulations of XML document. So schema is a general term and DTD is one of the categories of schema. The literal meaning of this term schema is structured framework or plan. So when we say schema, we say that it is www consortium XML schema language. This is also called XML schema definition. So we sometimes refer it as XS, sometimes we refer it as XSD. So we are going to see what is the difference between DTD and XML schema, and we see what are the nuances of this XML schema, and we will write an example file and we will validate that. So XML schema is a replacement for DTD. First of all, let us see what are the disadvantages of DTD. Already we discussed in the last class. DTD provide a very weak specification. You can't give more specifications and you cannot put any restrictions. Only you can say that it occurs 0 or more, 1 or more. That's it. You cannot put restriction on number of times, something like 10 times or 11 times, something. You cannot put that type of number restriction, and you have very little control over mixed elements, that means text plus elements, and ordering is also very difficult in DTD. The major disadvantage with DTD is not an XML format. That means you are writing in a different language. So what is the implication here? You need a separate parser for DTD and separate parser for XML. So I repeat, DTD is not an XML document. That is a strong disadvantage, and because of that you need a separate parser for DTD and separate parser for XML. This is the major disadvantage with DTD. So whereas XML schema definition or XSD, it solves these problems because XML schema gives you much control over structure and content, and XSD is XML. That means you need a single parser. You don't need to learn a different language which is DTD. But still, though it has more advantages, still people are using DTD because DTD have been around for a longer time than XSD. They are more widely used and more tools support them. Whereas one limitation, or one rather than limitation, let us use the term disadvantage. XSD is very verbose. That means you have a lot of documentation and lot of words in that. More advanced XML schema instructions can be somewhat confusing because there are more number of instructions. Nevertheless, XSD is very important and people are using it. Now, if we use an external DTD, what we have done is doc type, root element, system, URL. That's what we are given. And similarly, if you are writing XML schema, the root element will be given here: XML namespace, XSI, HTTP, www.w3.org 2001 XML schema instance. This is required for the XML schema, and XSI no namespace schema location. This is where you will give XSD. No namespace location means we are saving it locally. So these are compulsory, that we will see in the example. Now XSD is written in XML, and every XML schema document is saved with an extension of .xsd. Root element is schema, so xsd starts like this: XML version 1 and xs, or some people use xsd. You can use either schema, and you will use XML namespace xs is equal to http www.w3.org. This is somewhat missing, let me correct it. Org, yeah, org and XML schema. And if you have, and if you are using an external schema, what you can do is give here so whatever the name of the file that you are using, so followed by this, so there is no hyphen here. So for example, I am using my schema file xsd. So here my schema dot xsd, this is my schema dot xsd is your external schema file. Got it? So next let us see schema. So schema elements, we divided the elements into two types. One is simple element, another is complex element. Simple element is the element which contains text, nothing else. It will not have any attributes, it will not have any child elements, it will not be empty. You know that XML supports empty elements, it cannot be empty. However, text can be of different types. It may be an integer, it may be a string, it may be a date, or it may be any data type. We can specify that, and you can impose restrictions on that: number of occurrences, minimum value, maximum value. You can use all these restrictions, but the thing is, it doesn't have attributes, it doesn't have any child elements, and it cannot be empty. So whichever element is not simple is called complex element. That means complex element may have attributes, complex element may be empty, or it may contain text, it may contain other child elements. So first of all, let us see how do we define simple elements in the XML schema. So it is so simple. Less than symbol, access element, name of the element, and type. The type may be name, where name is the name of the element and type is the data type. Access may be boolean, date, decimal, integer, string, and you can also use even time. So this is where access D beats the DTD. In DTD we don't have these many types, and other attributes that may have is you can put a default value, you can have a fixed value of the attribute element. And coming to the attribute is almost all very likely same as the simple element, but the thing is, instead of access elements it will be access attribute, and name and type are the same as the access element. And you can have a default value of attribute, you can have a fixed value of attribute. If the attribute is optional, you can put use is equal to optional, otherwise required. Now the restrictions or facets. So if you want to put restriction, there we will see the restriction base type will be mentioned. For example, we are using integer, so for example age. Now restriction base is access integer, minimum value inclusive value is 10, and maximum inclusive value is 140 or 120. So for the age element I am putting the restrictions, but value should be between 0 and 140. This is the restriction. And Restriction on numbers, min inclusive, number must be, that means the number should be greater than or equal to that. Min exclusive, that means greater than. Max inclusive, less than or equal to. Max exclusive, less than. Total digits, you can also have number must have exactly value digits. Fraction digits, number must have no more than value digits after the decimal point. So similarly, on the restriction of the strings, the length you can restrict, minimum length you can specify, maximum length you can specify, pattern you can specify, white spaces, what to do with that. If you give value preserve, it will preserve all white spaces. You can replace the white spaces or you can remove all the white spaces. Now coming to the enumeration, and enumeration restricts the value to be one of the fixed set of value. మీకు గుర్తుంటే in the form HTML ఫామ్స్ మనం చేసినప్పుడు ఒక ఆప్షన్ వాల్యూ తీసుకున్నాం. స్టేట్ కానీ డిస్ట్రిక్ట్ కానీ ఉన్నప్పుడు అక్కడ ఆప్షన్ వాల్యూ తీసుకున్నాం. సో ఇక్కడ కూడా మనం XML లో ఒక ఆప్షనల్ వాల్యూ తీసుకోవాలి అంటే excess enumeration. For example, here the season. These are the options for the season. So string is the base. Spring, summer, autumn, fall, winter. These are the restrictions. And e values lonchi you can choose. So these are the options for XML document. గుర్తుపెట్టుకోండి, మనం XS స్కీమా రాస్తున్నాం. XML డాక్యుమెంట్ రాసేటప్పుడు ఆ సీజన్ దగ్గర ఈలో ఏదో ఒక వాల్యూ ఇవ్వచ్చు. Now coming to the complex element. So what we do is XS element name, then followed by XS complex type. For example, a person is an XS element. The person contains two children, first name and last name. So XS element, XS complex type, C is small, T is capital. XS సీక్వెన్స్ అంటే ఈ ఫస్ట్ నేమ్ ఉండాలి, తర్వాత లాస్ట్ నేమ్ ఉండాలి, ఆ సీక్వెన్స్ ఉండాలి. ఎలా అయినా ఉండొచ్చు అంటే XS ఆల్ అని ఇచ్చేస్తే యూ కెన్ గివ్ ఎనీ ఆర్డర్, దెర్ ఈజ్ నో ప్రాబ్లం. సో ఫస్ట్ నేమ్ వస్తుంది, అదొక స్ట్రింగ్, లాస్ట్ నేమ్ అదొక స్ట్రింగ్. సో ఇక్కడ మనకు క్లారిటీ ఉండాలి మైండ్లో ఏంటంటే వాట్ ఈస్ ద పేరెంట్ నేమ్, కాంప్లెక్స్ టైప్, సీక్వెన్స్, అండ్ వాట్ ఆర్ ద చిల్డ్రన్స్ నేమ్స్. సో attributes are always simple types, so you can give the attributes there. So global and local definitions, element declared within the complex type are local, and elements declared at the level of schema are global throughout the schema. So here first name and last name are locally declared because they are under the person. And schema, the order of the declarations are the schema, do not specify the order of the XML data document. So how to declare and how to use them now. To use a type, ikkada ante manam XS integer, XS string itla gaakunda we can define our own type. For example, XS element name student, type person. Already we have defined person there. Person has first name, last name. Now the student can be declared as a person, type person. Professor, type person. So and now the sequence is if you want a specific order we use sequence. If you are not bothered about the order, you can use XS all, and you can use minimum occurs, min occurs, and max occurs. Referencing, once you define an element or attribute, you can refer it with reference. For example, you defined a person, and person has the first name and last name. Now the element name student refers to a person. Student is referred as a person. So person is the type and we are referring it, or just we can write access element reference person. So text element with attributes, if the text element has attributes, it is not a simple type, it is complex type. So name, for example, population ki attributes year undi. So access complex type, access simple content, ఎక్స్టెన్షన్ బేస్ అంటే ఇక్కడ మనం ఇక్కడ ఒకటి ఇది కొంచెం కొత్తగా ఉంటుంది. ఎక్స్టెన్షన్ బేస్ అనేది ఇక్కడ కూడా మనం వాడాం, రెస్ట్రిక్షన్ బేస్ వాడాం. అట్లాగే ఇక్కడ మనం ఎక్స్టెన్షన్ బేస్ వాడుతున్నాం. ఇక్కడ మనం రెస్ట్రిక్షన్ బేస్ ఇంటీజర్, ఇక్కడ ఎక్స్టెన్షన్ బేస్ ఇస్ extension base is integer and attribute name year type is integer. So and we'll close that. Empty elements or complex elements, they don't have any content, but so complex type name counter, it's an empty element. Complex content extension base access any type, attribute name count, type access integer. Mixed elements may contain both text and elements. మనం పెద్దగా వాడం వీటిని. ఎక్స్టెన్షన్స్, యూ కెన్ బేస్ a complex type on another complex type. For example, a name new type and extension base other type, and you can define new stuff based on the other types. You can also define date, time. These are the predefined formats. These are the numericals. So let us see an example here. Let us go to our Notepad++, the editor we are using. Now see this one. Now we defined, as I defined a simple XML document, and so this is the schema for that. Now let us see first the schema. XML version 1 encoding UTF, and this is what I told you. XSD schema XML namespace http www.w3.org 2001 XML schema, and element form default qualified. We want all the elements to be qualified. So I am creating a root element called book. It is complex type. Book contains three child elements: title, which is a string, authors and publishers. Authors and publishers again complex elements, and there is also an attribute called publication country. I didn't use it there. So malli authors anedi complex type, malli danko sequence undi. Other minimum others 1 and maximum occurs unbounded. You can use any number of others because one book may have more than one other. And similarly, publisher is a simple element and it is XSD string, and author is also a simple element and XSD string. This is schema. And let us see our XML document. So I given two authors and the publisher. XML schema essential, the book title, So here we have given the title, that is string, and authors, and the author is a string. Two authors are given, one publisher is given, and we can also give the book and now let us validate it. Let us go to plugins and XML tools and validate now. Okay, let us validate this one. So XML schema validation, XML is valid. So if you write your own XML, you will get you will be perfect in this. This is very important question even an examination point of view. Thank you very much.